Hey, this is Notser, and we're in the Tier 9 British destroyer Jutland on the map Sea of Fortune. This is very similar to the Daring. 114mm guns that require inertia fuse high explosives, but that's not really a big deal. You could just forego concealment, have 6-1 as your base, and be just there neck and neck with the Germans. Or the Soviets. The alternative branch Soviets, of course. Don't be ridiculous. The Tashkent or the Khabarovsk. You out-conceal that by about 2 kilometers, which isn't saying much considering they are about 10 knots faster than you. Yeah, it's incredibly intimidating to play a defensive DD. I'm going to show you how to play a defensive DD as they're described, and I'm going to let you be the judge. What does this remind you of? Because so far, I do not believe a single line that's been introduced has had the same type of similarities that this line in particular has with another line, and I'm not going to ruin it. I'm going to make you have to figure out what line I'm talking about. So a couple of enemy DDs went B, and because I saw both of them, I was not going to go anywhere near it as a defensive DD. I have no capability of escaping, but if an enemy makes a mistake and wanders into your kill box, well, clearly they're very easy to kill. And I'm hoping that maybe that Benson overextended a little bit, and clearly because my concealment's way better than his, I'm going to see him before he sees me. And it kind of looks like he might take a torpedo. He does take a torpedo. They are surprisingly effective. They're incredibly concealed, 1.3, and they do okay damage, plus I can single launch them. What's not to love about it? It's basically a bonus, though, because when you're playing a defensive DD, do you know what you do? You camp. Yes, you camp behind an island, in smoke, behind a teammate. You camp, you camp, you camp, and you camp. And as long as the enemy is going to willfully sail into your kill box, well, it's just free damage. Enemy Alsace is a little bit behind the island, sort of backing up. He's already on fire, obviously. You can see the smoke. And I'm going to manipulate the line of sight game to hopefully engage the Alsace. Now you notice I didn't need to use my little trick that other players have used where you double tap M. I can just use the minimap and aim the crosshair that's drawn on the minimap now, and it's appropriately accurate. We're hitting the target. His fire's out. It's okay. But that Shimakaze, and there's another fire. You will light a ton of fires. That's just what the British DDs are going to do. That's just what they do. They camp and they light fires, just like American light cruisers, just like American heavy cruisers. But I wanted to kill the Shima because I don't know what his problem is. He's having a lot of issues with islands, so he's the only target that can see me. I'm going to fire all my guns broadside, draw in the shot. I'm not going to do any funny business, just going to unload my HE. I've tried AP on broadside DDs, not as effective as the HE. It just straight up isn't. But we take him out. He gets a little shot on us. I put the fire out because damage control is such a low cooldown. And another ship, what is he doing? He's like backing up in between a gap. Maybe he felt like he could be aggressive, but then things changed when his teammates died. I don't know. I'm just going to try and shoot him. But first, he actually has to be spotted. So I'm going to very cautiously sail backwards. And, oh yes, his guns are pointed this way. So I'm going to wait until his front 2 guns are behind the island before I fire. And we get a fire. And disengage. Nothing to do. I can't chase him. I am a defensive DD. So I have to allow the enemy team to make a mistake, and it kind of looks like he's making another mistake. It kind of looks like he wants to push into B point. Now, the torpedo angling is not ideal. I'm going to have to re-angle the ship until I'm going to unload a couple salvos of HE, but I'm going to eventually switch to AP because, let's be honest, we want to see the difference. So an HE shell does about 2,000 per salvo, and boy is he fast too. For super floaty shells, the AP salvo, if it sticks in the ship, does about 3,400 damage, which honestly feels really good. But it should. It's a gunboat. Gunboats should be really good with their guns. And just look at the game. As long as the enemy is willfully running into your area of operation, you're going to have a lot of success. But the moment that the enemy is not in your area, it is incredibly frustrating to relocate into a position where you can camp either in smoke or behind an island and engage targets. And it just doesn't mesh very well with a DD. This is a selfish DD. The British DDs are incredibly selfish. They don't want to spot. They want someone else to spot for them. And I just can't get behind that. I can't support that design. Destroyers, above all other types, classes, ships, should be spotting for their team. And they can't spot for their team when they have to camp behind an island or in smoke because their shell velocity is so terrible that they're not going to hit the broadside of a barn at 10 kilometers. It's going to take so long for that shell to drop. This is engaging a Tirpitz, and he's about 10 kilometers. And I could fire on him, but it'll take 8 seconds for that shell to get there. And he'll probably be dead already. And I don't want to give away my position. There is a Fletcher operating in this area. I want to kill him. But if the Fletcher moves away, maybe regroups with his team at A, I cannot catch him. Thankfully, that's not what he chooses to do. Instead, what he chooses to do is he's going to point blank me. And yeah, there's no way I can use my torpedoes. I'm just going to aim my HE. And one thing that's really awesome about the British DDs, they are so incredibly slow that I was able to avoid a torpedo send at point blank range. It's a silver lining. It's nothing to be proud about, but it's something, right? It's a slow ship. It's cool. We're good. But this flank is done. There's nothing for me. There's a Baltimore that headed completely south. I need to work my way over to the western side of the map. And as I'm doing that, what does this look like? What does this feel like? This feels like a British cruiser. It doesn't have speed boost. British cruisers don't have speed boost. It has smoke. British cruisers can have smoke. Single launch. British cruisers can choose narrow versus wide, which is an advantage. About the same amount of torpedoes, about the same amount of distance. The concealment is definitely better by about 3 kilometers, but it doesn't get a heal. And it certainly doesn't have AA protection. Its gameplay loop is camping behind an island, firing on a target. Instead of with tons of AP, it's tons of HE, and it wants to set the target on fire. I just don't really think this is unique enough to warrant the existence of the line. Maybe as a split off from the light cruiser line for the Brits, but when you're talking about a DD line, it needs to bring something new and fresh, and a gunboat line that requires that you camp behind islands, you know, we've played that. So I'm just incredibly disappointed by the gameplay loop. It's not something that I was hoping for. I was hoping that they would reinforce the torpedo system more, that it would actually be able to play the objective more so than its speed, lack of speed boost, encouraging it to play in such a manner that it really doesn't want to go out there and grab a victory. It's going to try and prevent the enemy from doing exactly what I prefer to do, going towards objectives that are not my own and taking out enemy targets that I might run across. And preferably DDs. I really enjoy the one-on-one DD gameplay. And there really isn't that. It's more like, oh look, this player made a huge mistake. He came into my gun range. He will die. I don't like that. I prefer it to where, you know, both ships are trying to do the same thing, and it's up to the player who makes a bad decision. Maybe this is more enjoyable for someone who can't make the right decision with an assaulting DD, and they want to be more defensive. That's a legitimate playstyle, I guess. It's just not what I imagined a DD would ever be. I always imagined that DDs would be the go-getters. They've got the concealment, they can be aggressive, But radar, no speed boost, floaty shells, the torpedo angles make sure that you are very, very decisive with your decision. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to too much damage. And I just don't like that. I prefer the Minnow or the Neptune. If I wanted to play like this, I just play those. You know? Yeah, they're easier to spot, and yeah, they're bigger targets and smoke camping, but, you know, I don't smoke camp. I don't think smoke camping is a legitimate play style with so much radar. I think I had a game where there was like 6 per side, and I was a DD. You can guess how fun that was. Spoiler alert, not at all. It's just this gameplay style is outdated with all the radar. And I can't say it any other way than that. I hope that this was interesting at least. Leave a comment. What do you think? I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.